emotional vulnerability, especially, that allows people to want to follow them through a path to, what they have and get what they have. And that's part of what inspired me when we met. So it's cool.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, man. It's I realize now that's something that we're all looking for, right? To be able to fully express ourselves. But it seems, that we don't necessarily have that environment all the time or access to that. So, to have an environment where people can fully share themselves, express themselves without feeling judged or wrong, or shamed for how they're expressing themselves, I think is so key in every individual's life and every human being's life for full self-expression. So it's a good thing to have, man.
It is, man. And it's something I'm working on too. I think as we get into what we're going to accomplish this weekend, I'm very good at expressing myself in certain vulnerability paths and not in others, And so for some reason the play is hard for me. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm getting judged or something else. So we'll see. There's areas where all of us to work on.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's evolution, man. It's constant. It's not gonna, stop at some point in our life. Like we're all of a sudden just gonna be, yeah, I made it. It's just constantly getting better, better and better, better every single day, so that we can create better moments for ourselves, of course. But for me, it's also doing that and for others, and not only for just others around me, but for generations to come. I mean, there's people that your kids, my kids, and the generations that will follow us. Like we want to create a better moment for them as well. Like we know we're not going to be here for you know eternity. So what are we going to do for those people that are coming after us, and honoring those that came before us? The sacrifices that they made. A lot of people, gave their lives for us to have these moments where we can do things like we're doing right now and have freedom. So in honor of that, and also in honoring those that aren't even existing in this world today, I think it's important for us to do this work that we're doing. And I'm really happy that I could do this work with you, David. I can sense that you're a very bright guy with a big heart, and I want to do what I can to support what you're doing. And of course, whatever I can glean from you and your experience and your knowledge and your information, I think it's just a beautiful journey, man, and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, well, it's good to connect, and I'm looking forward to it. And in this process, learning, I did my first learning, which is Google Hangouts. So,
Did you already have it all downloaded and everything, or was it pretty easy for you?
it was easy. I literally walked into the door and from yoga, and then did that. So it was
Yeah. Awesome.
like dogs were attacking.
Um,
Good.
yeah, so let's get it rocking, man.
Yeah.
So the format for this, what I'd like to do is as I said, get to know you and allow for our staff and others to get to know you as well. So it'd be awesome if we could start off just with you sharing your background, where you were born. You shared with me at the Del Mar Fair a little bit, but if you want to go in detail, or it's really up to you how much you'd like to share. But give us a scope of your childhood, what that was like, and what you were inspired by, what you got in trouble for, or whatever you'd like to share. And then from there, we'll talk about what you want to accomplish in the future as well, and what your biggest desires are. And then we'll just
Start with first grade.
yeah, start with your first day in class of
Yeah.
kindergarten and first grade.
It goes for a day and a half, right?
Yeah.
You can get it all done maybe in that time. Childhood, grew up in Fresno, California, born in LA, moved there when I was 1, so my 19 years of my early life were all in Fresno. My dad was a lawyer and then sold his practice and bought out my grandfather's farm and then grew it into a real big organization. So I kind of grew up in a bit of a rural area, but also in a city life. So I had both those backgrounds that led to really interesting opportunity. I was the second of 4 kids, and so oldest sister was a stepsister from my mom's previous marriage. Was incredibly tormenting and mean because she had a heck of a lot of pain, and so she drove all that pain into me. So it was a really hard childhood because I was the first of my parents' kids, and she always felt like she was never enough. And so that came out through my whole childhood with, a lot of torment and pain through her. But it also opened the door for me to, really start on a rebellious path that I think ultimately led to my character. So I was the black sheep of the family. She was a perfect kid, always trying to impress everyone, and I always felt like I was never enough. So then I would go out and act that out in every which way. So starting fires, doing everything that I possibly could to draw attention to myself, and also see if I can get in trouble. The quintessential black sheep was what I was throughout everything in my growing up areas, which ultimately led to me becoming a very good entrepreneur. Because I think when you channel that energy into good, black sheeps always go the different path, and so entrepreneurs need to do that as well. And I think that led to the ability for me to be comfortable enough to go upstream when everyone else is going downstream. And so ultimately, real appreciative of that experience growing up. Pretty standard childhood in a lot of ways. My parents had means growing up, and so I was always a little bit different than everyone else in that kind of farming environment. But it really led to me becoming, even early on, in some of the cases, a leader. And so that was a way for me to kind of learn through my experiences what it was like to lead, and also, what it's like to be a little different than everyone else. Everyone can realize what it's like to not fit in, and, hence the shirt. And so I always felt like I didn't quite fit in, and now I've started a company that allows everyone to fit in. So, everything comes full circle. I grew up, through public school, tried 1 year of private school in my first year of high school, hated it. I just didn't feel like the people I felt like they were snobby, pretentious, and just didn't really relate to them as much as I did the public school kids. And so went back to public school for the 3 years left of high school. Was just always in trouble through that, and between junior and senior year, my parents threw me off to Montana to go to a reform hiking camp thing for a month, and I really learned once again that I'm a leader, because even though I was in that environment, I started having everyone kind of follow, and that was really the first reinforcement of, wait a second, I'm kind of different in the capability that I can get people to follow me and lead them, even when everything else is equal. There's really no difference between me and a bunch of other kids that are thrown into an environment like that, and yet somehow I was the group leader and the catalyst that brought everyone together. And I think I started realizing in a different way that I was unique in the capabilities of taking people and moving them in a set direction. Senior year was one of my favorite years, got into all kinds of trouble. Second half of my senior year, they were like, if you miss one more class, you won't graduate for the whole second half of the year, because when you turn 18, which I did in the beginning of the year, you can excuse your own absences in California. I literally excused every possible absence I possibly could, and literally from January on, they're like, if you even come late, you won't graduate. So that was kind of my case study. Got into college, but didn't really want to go to college. Once again, wanted to kind of throw my parents into a tizzy, and so I went to the Navy and enlisted, and did 5 years enlisted in the Navy. My mom cried the day I went into the Navy. What did you do? You just signed your life away. And signed up as a rescue swimmer. Navy was the best experience of my life. Once again, found out that I have leadership potential in the capabilities of putting me into an all things are equal with everyone else, and I seem to have risen above. And so that really reinforced that I'm valuable, because underneath all of this, I never felt like I was really valuable. I didn't feel like I was enough, as I started the story with a lot of the trauma that I had when I was a kid. And so always trying to prove that I am that way. The Navy set the ground for me to be back into good standing from an education perspective. So I got out of the Navy. I was a rescue swimmer in the Navy, and then an air traffic controller. Ended up, getting a bunch of medals in the Navy because I saved a couple people's lives. And then went to college, and I would have never got into college that I did, but because I went in the Navy, it allowed me into a back door, where you've served and they have programs. So I went to Columbia in New York, fell in love with New York, really loved it, and also at the same time, as a rural California kid, never quite fit in, and everything's moving so fast, everything's happening really quickly. There's no wide open spaces. There's like, just to give you an example, learning how to run in the city. Like when you run outdoors, you just start running here in San Diego, and you got the beach, you got the open air, you got whatever you want. And in New York, you're running up and down in a path. There's always people around you. It's just breathing in toxins. And I never quite felt really comfortable, and yet loved the city. I got introduced to cocaine my senior year. I did Columbia in 2 years, and then graduated because I, once again, felt like I was behind everyone else. And so I was like, I'll fucking show you guys. I'll graduate in 2 years. And so I took a bunch of units and graduated quickly. My senior year, I graduated, but I also got introduced to cocaine in that last semester. Fell in love with cocaine. It was a drug that made me have energy, which I've never had a lot of energy, and I've always been kind of tired and lethargic in a sense of things. And so cocaine was a nice solution for me to kind of pick up and find a constant state of energy. But within 2 years, I went from trying it for the first time to almost dying of a drug overdose. I was working in investment banking, at a firm in in New York called CIBC World Markets. It was one of the better firms, and we're selling half $1 billion companies, and you're getting paid a ton of money doing it. And so I had a lot of disposable income, blew it all, and partied a lot, and then almost died of a drug overdose. And all of the stuff that I learned there was all means of covering up things that I didn't find in myself. My soul wound is I'm unlovable, and so I prove that in every way that I do. Like, I don't feel like I'm smart enough, so I go to Columbia, show everyone how smart I am. I don't feel like I'm good looking enough, so I hang out with models. I don't feel like people like me and I'm charismatic, so I have a bunch of money and throw it at people. All these things that cover up a core wound. Ultimately, that stuff was all stripped away when I had that heart attack and moved out to California with nothing, emotionally, spiritually, physically bankrupt, and came out here looking for answers. I was stationed in the Navy out here in San Diego. My parents were here, and so I went and lived with them for close to a month and a half. Then went to Betty Ford, did 6 months in rehab, and a year in a sober living house. Was the best experience of my life because stripped of everything. Obviously there's nothing else, all things considered equal. People still like me, and it was the beginning of me learning to love myself because I didn't have anything, so they had to like me for who I was. And specifically, they liked me because I was being of service to other people, and I liked how I felt when I was helping other people. And it was the beginning of me learning that the only lasting thing in my life that creates long-term value and sustained high is helping other people. So I vowed at that point that if I will only start companies that make a difference in people's lives. I went back into venture capital, investing in technology companies in Southern California, and then it ultimately started my last company. Out of that VC firm, it went on to be a much bigger hit than we ever thought it was going to be. Basically it was a social network that's HIPAA secured that allowed people, think about Facebook as a place where you go to show everyone how great your life is. This is a place to go where you tell people how your life really is and how you're not doing well, and you can do it in an anonymous, secure way, and you have people that have the same experiences. So alcohol, drug addiction, we can pair you up with other people that have the same thing. If you have cancer, we can pair you up with other people that have cancer, diabetes, any of those other things where you have a place to connect with other people that have the similar experiences and can help you heal because they've gone a path ahead of you. And so it was a really neat experience to see that come together. We sold it to insurance companies like Aetna, Blue Cross. It worked really well. On top of it was a coaching layer. So if your peer group wasn't enough support for you, and your activities on the website would indicate, and through an artificial intelligence flag you up to a coach, and the coach would step in and intervene if you need a higher level of care. And it worked really well for that kind of peer group plus professional coaching environment. So similar to what you guys are doing there. That company went on to get to a bigger size, and 60 plus employees, kept growing, and I handed off to the founder of WebMD, who was one of my board members. He's running it now. They'll probably sell it in the next 6 to 12 months for a pretty good size number. And I left that company once again, putting my all into it. I was 260. The doctor at that point says, hey, you got 3 years before your first heart attack. So just get ready for that. And it scared the shit out of me. I didn't, I looked fear in the, I looked death in the face already once, and here I am again doing it from a different angle, killing myself through a different addiction, which in this case was food and lack of exercise. So, I went on a path of starting to do yoga, Pilates, spinning, and lost, 40 pounds doing that, and now down to 215, 210, and found out that it was just a really great experience, and I loved it, but I couldn't do it with my friends, and so because everyone was joined up at different places, and so and I wanted to go to multiple ones, so that's where this new company Fit In came from, was allowing us to go to any studio we want to, anytime we want to, with anybody we want to, because we're not locked into a set, gym or studio or pass. We can go to all of it. So it really allowed for this concept of social fitness, and also knowing from my last company that, and this is what you guys are doing, when you bring, people together to support you, your accountability from that support goes up, and your exponential reach of your goals goes up by about 6 times. There's a bunch of studies that show that with accountability and peer support, your actual realization of your goals goes up exponentially. And so that's what social fitness is helping anyone, get the support they need to change if they want that, or have a community if that's what they want, where they can go and exercise and be healthy and with other people. And so, over the last year, created this company. It has been one of the hardest things I've ever done because I haven't got paid out from my last company, so I put the last of my savings into the company, put everything I had into it, and through the last year, I've gone through a really set of obstacles that allowed me to look deep into myself and see who I am once again with nothing. And in that, I found, as hard as it is and as tired as I am right now, that I am much more. Oh, my dogs are playing here. There they go. So I found out that I'm much stronger than I also am, and yet am in a state right now where I'm really fatigued after a year's marathon. I've put 15-hour days in for the last year, no finances, no anything, and a lot of facing demons, and also going through a separation with a wife, and a lot of those things simultaneously was some of the harder things I've ever gone through. And coming out of that window, I know how strong I am, and yet I'm fatigued and tired and trying to figure out what the right answer is for me with going forward, and even in the potential of looking at bringing in a CEO to run the company for me, because I know what I love to do is inspire people, work with them, exercise, and help tell my story and get people going. So looking at is it my ego that says I need to run this thing, or is it, is it the fact that I really legitimately am? I know that I'm the only person that could have done what I just did, pull off this thing with as much resources, little resources as I had. It's very hard, and most people would have quit a long time ago. And so I know I'm incredibly good at that early stage foundation of companies. I know I don't like running companies when they get bigger. So there's a identity issue that I'm figuring out right now of what's the best thing to accomplish to make the most difference, kind of like what you guys are talking about. I'm also in a place where I'm coming into myself in a lot of ways, where I've been doing a lot of work on sexual identity, deep soul searching stuff, and so that's been a goal. But as you know, it takes a lot of energy. Losing weight, changing behaviors takes a lot of energy. Starting companies does, and it's a finite pie. So I'm realizing, how do I divvy up that pie, and where do I want to go? I'm also realizing I want to keep facing fears. So I look at life as kind of a compass of, if there's fear, that's the direction I need to go. And so, where are the fears? I faced a lot of them, and everything from, interpersonal dynamics to sexual stuff to life dynamics. But, I also realize that some of the last fears are stuff that you're doing around play and having fun and opening up and just being silly, because when I was a kid, every time I did that, I was laughed at. And so I have in the back of my head this fear of, like, gosh, if I'm going to look silly, people are going to judge me, and I'm going to be silly, and I'm going to do that. So I'm in the middle of facing that. I'm also in the middle of facing, fears around body image issues, always having been bigger than everyone and always having been a little overweight. not finding myself in my body really comfortable. Like I still do hot yoga with my shirt on. I'm working on, just becoming comfortable with who I am. And those are things that, as you know, those fears and those deep core essence of change are really things that take a lot of energy, and yet when freed up, release a lot of energy too. So those are some of the things I'm working on right now. And, my goal in life is to make, a lot of people better for having lived this life. And so I like creating companies that make a big difference. My last company, we, for instance, helped 40,000 alcohol and drug addicts recover from addictions. Like, the success rate before we started in the industry was 15%. 85% of people would not get to their first year of sobriety. When we got done with it, it was 67% people were successful, and we completely changed the relapse curve because they had a support group, had accountability, they had a coaching network after they left, and so they were never alone again. And it's just really a cool thing. And in this company, we have the potential to help literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people get healthy and have a community and really change. And if you look at, and we talked about it, our mission at the company is to fight childhood obesity. I was obese as a kid, and I know how painful that is, and yet there's no clear path towards, healing those people, and yet this is our biggest epidemic we have to deal with in our generation, because it's literally killing off kids. A child that's obese right now, that stays obese their whole life, will live to 55. And so it's a epidemic of cosmic proportions if you look at it from that element, because it's growing faster than almost any other virus has ever grown, exponentially if you look at it from the 70s to now. In the 70s, obesity was nowhere near what it is today, and if it continues on that path, literally almost the whole population will be obese. And so we're dealing with the funniest thing. I saw a quote from Bloomberg. It was the first time in the history of mankind where more people will die from too much food than from too little food. So that's our reality. So we're helping fight that, and I really am happy about it, because with these companies, they're also a way for me to hold myself accountable. Like in my last one, recovering from drugs and alcohol, I have to be the leader. So, I'm 8.5 years sober because of it. In this company, I have to be the leader, so I got to lose the weight and get healthy and do all that stuff and stay healthy. And so I was joking over the weekend, at the very least, if no one ever uses my product, I've created a very expensive weight loss tool.
That's awesome.
Crazy there. I have a Great Dane and a Weimaraner, and they are big dogs. So, but yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's pretty much everything about me in a nutshell in 15 minutes. So, any other questions or anything else I can answer?
I do have some questions, but I first would like to acknowledge, man, what a warrior you are, and the courage that you have displayed throughout your lifetime to get to where you are today, when a lot of people can give up and just, go the other way. You decide to push past your fears and the things that challenge you to get to this point where you've helped a lot of people. Like you said, 40,000 people, and the curve that you have altered as a result of your desire to actually want to enact change into the world. And now you're continuing to do that with Fit In, and I'm sure many other companies will arise from your desire to help people. And I just really want to honor you for that. And you're enough just because of that. There's nothing more that you need to do in the future or even now. You've done everything I think you need to do. Everything else is just icing on the cake. A lot of what you've done already, people, wouldn't be able to do in their lifetime. So I want to commend that, acknowledge that, and honor that in you, and it's fucking amazing, David. Really, really amazing. Great story.
You got me a little emotional on that. I mean, I know that, but my inner voice and the tyrant in my head doesn't say that. I don't hear that as much. In my voice, I'm always not enough. So letting that sink in, thank you for that. Yeah. And it all comes like you said it when we met, and this is what happened with you and your story of changing from the inside out, right? It's Gandhi's "Be the change you want in the world," and that's how I know how to lead and change, is I can't ask other people to do it if I haven't done it myself. And that's the same thing that you're doing with EvoRoom, and that's what great leaders do. They represent what they're leading.
Well, and I can relate to you because I have that similar voice in my head coming from a household where, my father was pretty not so nice with his words, I would say, and that got ingrained into me. And so I noticed and have been working on that voice in my head that, likes to push myself, likes to beat myself up for not being, the best that I can be and all of that. But I'm starting to recognize, how to be a better lover of myself,
Hmm.
be, more patient with myself and more kind just to myself. Like if myself was outside, and I was dating like myself, would I enjoy that? And I realized like no, I wouldn't enjoy the way that I speak to myself and the way that I, work with myself. So that's, part of my journey and something that I see that you and I can work on together because we have so much talent and capability and capacity, to lead and to change. But in order for us to really make the impact that we want to make, I mean, outside of what we've already done, it's going to take for us to really find ourselves and discover and love ourselves in such a way that if we can love ourselves to the fullest, like that love will spill over to other people. And that's really essentially what I believe most human beings are on this earth for. Everything that we do is in the name of love, to receive and give more love. So if we can love ourselves to the fullest and pour that out to others, that in itself will be the trigger for a lot of growth and a lot of change in many other people.
Yeah, we're on that journey together, man. What's worked really well is I do a men's group that's a group-led, therapy, and man, just learning to first identify emotions, in my body. What is that feeling? Then learn to put a name to it, then express it to a group of guys with a, clinical setting, and then ultimately bring that into other environments has helped me a lot because I've realized that a lot of guys have that tyrant in their head, and it makes me feel like I'm not alone. And the more I can identify those emotions, the more I can start expressing it and getting that reality that, wow, like you said it beautifully. I wouldn't date myself. I mean, it just with that voice, I'm like, I'm so much nicer to everyone else than I am to myself. And
Mm-hmm.
but I'm over the last 4 years done a lot of work, and it's not as much as it used to be. And a lot of it comes to what you guys are doing, which is the more I step out of my comfort zone, the more that voice goes away. Because I realize that we're all just different versions of the same thing, and some people have strengths and other people have weaknesses where the other people have strengths, and vice versa. And playing is a great example of getting back to that silliness that unlocks that tyrant, I think.
Yes. Well, similar to you, I was that guy in the back of the class as a young boy, getting in trouble, getting detention a lot. I got talking to everyone, being the comedian, and shunned for that, So I had to shut that part of myself off as I got older. But then I realized now that is having fun and being in play is such a key tool for raising our vibration, right? Like I always wondered, in starting the Evo room, like what's actually working here? What is it that is allowing for people to just unfold their potential and tap into what is their unique gift or their power? And then something came to me, like when we're having fun and when we're excited and when we're in joy, that's when our vibration raises, right? And when our vibration raises, then we have more pure and positive thoughts, and more pure positive thoughts lead to more pure and positive actions, and that's how we create, miracles and magic and manifest the things that we really truly desire in life. So in essence, that's what the Evo Room represents. It's a place where, we can put the people together that are of like minds and use a process that I've learned in my own experience and using the experience of other experts who've done this work, and science and all that behind it. Use this process to raise an individual's vibration, and as those vibrations raise, like it affects everything around it. Quantum physics has shown we become what we surround ourselves with, right? So if we can create a vibration of energy, because all the world, in my belief, is energy, because we're all made of atoms and matter and protons and neutrons spinning around in space. So if we're all energy, how can we raise our vibration to a level that will affect and ripple out to others where you almost don't have a choice? Like if you're in that field resonance, then you're automatically going to be affected by it. And
Hmm.
some people have the ability to, you know, put encase themselves in an energetic bubble, if you will. But most people are unconsciously not aware that they're affected by the things that are around them, their cell phones, the food that they eat, what they're looking at. I mean, everything affects our consciousness. And so this process that we're using, it enables us to raise vibration. As a result, people find they discover things because of that tyrant in their brain, like you said, just goes away, and they fall into love. And when we fall into love and we start seeing ourselves for who we truly are, and we seeing other people for, you know, for who they are, then that becomes the seeds of growth, and like accelerated growth and change. So I'm excited for this opportunity to work with you, because as I mentioned to you in a conversation before, the people that you touch and those that you influence, you, by you just making a very small shift in your consciousness, is going to affect all those people that you touch, because of the vibration. Every time you raise your vibration, you're going to touch and uh, influence everyone else's vibration as well. So I have a vested interest in what's happening, you know, with you, David, in many ways, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to see you unfold your potential through this process, and whatever else it is that you're engaging in regards to personal growth. And that is a great segue for my next question, which you mentioned the men's group, and you know, I heard a couple other things of what you may engage in when it comes to personal growth. But what are the things that you utilize, and what are some of the things that you found in the past that have worked really well for you?
Well, yeah, like I said, for 4 years I've been in a men's group, and working on, you know, sexual relations and identity and kind of past stuff. I had trauma when I was a kid, and was hurt as a kid, and unwinding that trauma and really learning from other people that have had trauma too, what that experience has been like for them and how they've recovered. So I've done that. It's a clinically led group that's all men, and two, you know, psychiatrists in it, and it's been the most powerful thing. If you know what the Johari window is, which is Google it. It's pretty interesting, but you only get it when you're in a group setting. But it's basically what you know and what you see you can change, but what you don't know you can't change. And right,
Mm-hmm.
and other people can see that. So if you're in a men's group and you're working around, you might see something in someone else that they don't even see in themselves, but you only have that opportunity in a group of people that are vulnerable and helping you. And so that's a really powerful mechanism for change, because you can't change something you don't know needs to be changed. And then, like in a group setting where, you know, someone talks a lot and all of a sudden I'm annoyed by the fact that they talk a lot. Well, why is that? Well, it's maybe because I'm not feeling assertive or talking myself, and I'm learning. You use that to quest inward, and it's a really powerful mechanism. So I've done that, done, you know, rehab and a lot of group work there, you know, AA and all the pieces that go with that. So I've seen people bare their souls, and there's only one way to play when people bare their souls, is either you play at that level or you leave. But when people go to a vulnerability level and you drop down here, I can either choose to follow, or it's too uncomfortable and I go away. But that's a really powerful mechanism. I meditate a lot, and then I put myself into situations whereby I have to see who I am in my bare bones. Like a marathon is an example of that. I've run the New York Marathon. In mile 18, my body gives out. Right? Literally, you can't go anymore. And now you got, you know, another 8 miles to go, where your mind has to push yourself through it, and that mental endurance. And what do I have underneath it? You see your limitations, see my breaking points, and I'm able to learn who I am through that. It's the same thing with mountain climbing. It's the same thing with starting companies. I mean, November I was, you know, financially broke, you know, you know, sick for a month basically, and in that had over Thanksgiving had no money, and was sick and in bed for a week. And in those moments, you have to look inward. And so I quest out and look for those moments that will challenge me to kind of see my inner capabilities, because I think my goal in life is to know my limits and my edges, you know, and see, because I think it's a waste to go through life without knowing them. So a lot of men's group, a lot of work with other people, and just a lot of open communication, I think.
Nice, man. So why the Evo room? What's
At play. I think that's what I'm called to do in this last thing, and just being silly, and it's something that I have such a deep emotional hurt around. I hear this laughter at me, when I get out there. I have body image issues because when I was, playing tennis in my first year of high school, I took my shirt off and everyone laughed at me, and so, because I was a little overweight, and they pointed that out, and it was devastating, so I need to learn to be comfortable with me in my essence, and that's something I'm not quite there yet. I'm getting better at it. I've gotten a lot better in the last year, like I said, going into areas where I'm uncomfortable and trying that. But I think it's something to do with play. It's the best I can tell.
Dude, I'm excited now because that's my life. I mean, I'm sure you can notice that I love to have fun. I love to play, and I love to unlock that within other people as well. To see people just fully express themselves and not care about who the fuck is looking at them or watching them or whatever, and they're just in full self-expression. To see the human being engaged in that is like, it's magic for me. It's total magic for me. And being at that concert, at the Matisyahu concert, there was a comment that was made to me like, wow, you don't care what anyone thinks, or you're just like in full embodiment of who you are. And I don't think about that stuff as I'm doing it. I'm just like, I'm just having a good time. This is amazing. But then, I pondered that for a moment, and what came to me is like, there's a little, I don't know if you remember, but there's a young boy, maybe about 14, 15, 16 years old, in the Ninja Turtles, t-shirt, a green t-shirt. He was sitting right next to us the whole time. And I was just watching him, as the concert progressed. And at first I could feel and sense like his uncomfortability being there, and I'm dancing away, and every once in a while I'll just glance over to kind of check where his consciousness was. And at a certain point, I go over to him and I grab him by the shoulders because I saw a smile to his. I would engage and lock my eyes with him, right? And then I waited, and then finally a smile came to his face, and that was my invitation. So then from there, I came in and just grabbed his shoulders and started shaking him and dancing with him. And then after that, he was dancing, and I could feel like his body starting to move with the music, and to see the smile like just come to his face. David, that's gold for me right there. That is utter gold for me. And to see an individual like that, which I can sense like would maybe have the same thoughts as you. Like, I don't want to show myself the way I really truly want to express myself, because I don't want people to think that I'm this or that or the other. So for me to engage with him, I know that I'm giving him something that can unlock, within him things that could be so beneficial to all those that he encounters in his future, in his life. And so I want that, for as many people as possible. I want that for you. So I'm again just really honored, to have this opportunity to hopefully, provide whatever it is that you need to unlock within you, that which will just take your life to a whole different level, man. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, well, good. I mean, I know there's a little fear, so my compass says I got to go. So
that's awesome, man.
I got to kind of wrap up. But what other questions do we do? And I assume you'll send me the logistics on where to meet, what the cost is, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But any other questions I can answer, or are we got kind of covered up on it?
No, we covered everything, man. I appreciate you for being so open and sharing your story with me. But yeah, we answered the questions, and as far as like logistics are concerned, I have your email address now, so April is going to send you the itinerary, which will tell you exactly what you need to bring, where the location is, and it's a $99 deposit. So she'll, go ahead and
PayPal.
call you, and yeah, we could PayPal it, or we have she's going to call you as well because she needs some other information.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Saturday it is.
You excited, man? You ready to rock?
I am. Excited and a little nervous, so that's good. And those are always the best times. So 9 o'clock, and it's in Cardiff area?
No, it's going to be Vista Carlsbad at my partner and mentor's ranch. So you'll get the address up there, and it's not too far away from where we are now. So
perfect
stuff, man.
I'll be coming from the beach out there, so it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I told my brother-in-law I'll surfing with him in the morning. I'm trying to learn how to surf right now, so
Nice.
I stood up for my first time the other day. It was like a good feeling after I've crashed so many times. And now it's like once you get that moment, then you keep going. If you don't get that moment, I don't think you keep going. So
Yeah, it's like a drug, right? You get up and the exhilaration coming from that is like, yes, I want more of this.
so all right, man. I'm
Definitely.
super excited and looking forward to doing. I guess there's a lot of people that do it again, right?
Yeah, we've it
Like
wasn't designed, it wasn't what's that?
Jessica's going again, right? Is she going, and then is Trisha going too?
Trisha, I'm not sure if she's going to be there. She might be there in the later afternoon, but she has been going like for the last four that we've had. She's addicted to it, and it's great, man, just to watch her what's happened to her and many others. So it wasn't originally designed for people to come back for actually the threshold is what we call this because it's an introduction into the EvoRoom experience, and you're crossing the threshold, right? So that's why we name it that. So it's normally just new people, always different, but we've had people that are like, I just want to come, I want to be in that energy, I want to be around those people, I want to meet new people because they're always really cool. So we've been letting others that have been in the past come back because we just love having their energy, in the space. So
Cool. Well, I'm super stoked. Looking forward to getting to know you more and some of the other people in that group. And you're a good dude, and looking forward to sharing some more stuff together.
likewise, David, I'm looking forward to what unfolds from our relationship and to see what happens with you after this experience and in the future. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Yep.
I will
Stay,
see you
right?
Saturday,
That's my yoga class. So,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Take it easy, man.
See, how do I end it? Oh, all right, man. I've learned Google now. All right. See you, buddy.
We popped your Google Hangout cherry.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Take
Bye.
care.